12.5 seconds as a lead on second place Jacques Villeneuve. And should Villeneuve let this car, Paul Tracy, pass, there's a whole line. Herta, Guzman, Gordon, Fernandez right behind him.
Remember that both Villeneuve and Tracy are Canadians. They're much beloved in their country. Tracy, a year ago, was being touted for Formula One. That has not become a reality. Now Villeneuve is going in the footsteps of his father, of course, to Formula One. But obviously, I'm sure the Canadians are hoping that they do not tangle here in their maneuver.
More on the brakes. There goes Robbie Gordon into the pits right there. Boy, I saw him jump off the track. I thought
well,
that's where he's going.
Let's listen here. See if we can get the two-way radio up. This is on the 54th lap.
Problem on the left front here. Let's get another gun ready. Let's get another gun. Get some help with him. Get him some help there. He's got a problem, Robbie. He's got a problem. He's got a problem.
And while he sits, of course, everyone's screaming past. And another gun problem, apparently.
Okay, go, go, go. Watch your speed. Watch your speed.
38.5 seconds on that stop.
There's a problem with the axle. The safety latch on the front axle is broken. That's the problem. Couldn't get the gun on. It wouldn't let the gun go on. Twice, man. Chase this thing away. I can hear you.
So Michael Andretti at the front of the field while Robbie Gordon upset with that exceedingly long stop.
I started to say something about the brakes a little bit earlier before Robbie made his pit stop. I was going to explain that on a track like this that's so hot, you have to put in new brake fluid in the entire system. Brake fluid, by its natural way, absorbs water out of the air. It's like a sponge to water. And for every little dinky bit of water, the brake fluid boiling point goes down like 20, 50, 75 degrees at a time. So it's possible right there, that car, Jacques Villeneuve, it's possible they forgot to put in new brake fluid. And I'm not saying they didn't. It's just very possible that they didn't do it. That makes such a difference on a course like this.
You wouldn't think that that would be likely with Team Green. Jackaroo, would you think that?
Well, I would have to think that they are so meticulous that that's not the problem, but rather what's happened is with the tight racing that we've had and the fact that Villeneuve has had so many close quarter contacts that maybe he has begun to use up the brakes, and with the heat and humidity the way it is, it's began to boil out. One of the things I find fascinating is the radio communications back and forth. What they're saying now to Jacques Villeneuve is, look, if you have to give up a spot, go ahead. Just try not to use any more brake than you have to. I still think that probably what they're trying to do is forestall as long as possible that tedious process of trying to bleed the brakes. That takes a very, very long time, and if he can limp home in a points-paying position, that accomplishes what they've set out to do today.
Well, a long time, but not only that, working right down alongside those hot discs. I'm not so sure I'd be willing to do that.
Well, you know, it's possible if he eases up, which he probably has. Sometimes you even go faster when you ease up. But when the brake fluid boils, you lose your good pedal.
The
and
view
you
down.
can finish the race by just losing good pedal.
View down from the Honda Helicam as we continue to track. Jacques Villeneuve runs in second place, continues to be reporting a problem back to his team with the brakes, and Paul Tracy is lurking just behind, followed by Herta, Guzman, and Fernandez. Fangio, who started this race as his very first IndyCar start, is up and running in 10th place right now in Danny Sullivan's car.
Fangio, of course, the nephew of the great Juan Fangio, who died so recently, the great five-time world champion, who incidentally was born back in 1911, the year of the first Indy 500. So two legends have that same starting point.
Running back in 12th position, Stefan Johansson.
And on Fangio, I think the interesting thing there is it's Dan Gurney and Toyota. Next year, they will be here. The P.J. Jones, Parnelli Jones's boy, and Fangio in the Toyota team. I think that's going to help racing and make it a lot more interesting.
That's Fangio running just ahead as Johansson comes in and the second round of stops are underway. Michael Andretti still staying out on the course, still staying in the lead.
When Stefan makes his start out of here, notice how steeply uphill it is. very tricky to get these cars going from the early part of the pit lane where he see that steep hill he faces, have to really get that clutch just right.
More importantly, look at that hose. That's what the guys run over that we see the penalties about. And the guys got it out just in time.
And there is Michael Andretti, the leader of the race, came into the pits with a 15-second lead, Gary Gerould.
That is an absolute luxury to have that kind of a lead. Now they want to protect it here, what should be their final stop. Michael thought he wanted a slight handling change on the front wing, then at the last minute said no, keep the car exactly as it is. So it's fuel and rubber, and he is gone in 14.3 on our clock.
And you see as Michael comes out behind Eric Bachelard that Jacques Villeneuve stayed out, screamed down the main straightaway, and so assumes the lead of the race for the time being at least.
This is the kind of race we have not seen Michael have for years now, going back to just before he went to Formula One.
EDS scoring showing us that when he came into the pits, Michael had 15.7 seconds over Jacques Villeneuve. So that's kind of sets the benchmark for what Team Green will have to pull off on this stop, and it sure isn't likely that he can maintain the lead. In fact, the question is, can he stay at the top of the order and get that podium finish that Barry Green spoke about earlier?
Bad thing like about Villeneuve right there in the number 27 car is you can't pass if you don't have really good brakes. Passing is predicated on road circuits and driving in deeper in most cases and being able to stop the car. If you have to back off earlier, you've given away your advantage.
This, of course, is what championships are made of, is nursing a car home to the finish in the points, being aware that there's a real championship end game after this race, only 3 races left, fewer points to be scored by your opponents. Rahal out of the race, so Villeneuve knows what he has to do, which is basically bring it home in one piece.
Show you what an inspiration that long stop, 38 seconds, was for Robbie Gordon. He is now running 13th, but he just turned the fastest lap in the race by nearly a mile an hour, now running a lap at 115.5.
Well, one thing that was great, you heard Derek Walker able to explain to Robbie what had gone wrong during the pit stop. That's the benefit, isn't it, Bobby, of these radios? Because in the old days, we'd go back out on the track not really sure what had caused the delay, and sometimes worrying that there was a mechanical problem perhaps aboard the car. Robbie knows there's nothing wrong with the car. He can push hard.
Yes, of course, a lot of times the guys don't know about the little things. Sometimes the pits, Sam, don't even tell them if there's something small. There's Villeneuve coming in the pits right now.
Yeah, finally. So Jacques heads in, and Jack waits. Jack Arute.
Jacques Villeneuve knows that he has got to try and make up some time and also conserve the brakes. The crew will go to work, and the first thing that they will do when they put the tires on is they took a cursory glance at the brakes. They have signaled that they have completed the rear end. They have completed the front. They're taking out fuel. They're not going to do anything about the brakes, and he is off and away very quickly in 13.6 seconds.
Boy, that's interesting.
And what a great camera angle.
They just can't afford to bleed the brakes right now. It would take too long. It totally would take him out of any chance probably to even get any points in the race if they were to stop bleeding. But for safety's sake, if he couldn't maintain it, Barry Green would absolutely stop that car and bleed him.
So the new leader on the track is Paul Tracy. Been 31 laps since his last stop came on lap 31. And we would expect that he would make a stop very shortly here.
He'll probably come in this time by, Paul.
Also expect a stop by Brian Herta and Adrian Fernandez. So Paul Tracy makes his turn in to Gary Gerould.
Paul, he's got a wide open shot at it here because just moments ago Mauricio Gugelmin made his final stop. So Tracy is on the marks. He had a very ill-handling car early, but the change they made on the last stop brought him back, and they thought the track was coming to them. He's a much happier driver right now, and this is a terrific stop in 12.5 seconds.
Oh, super stop by the Newman Haas team. So Paul Tracy drops off the lead while he makes his stop. And we should be in now a run that should take us to the end. We'll be back after this message. So there's Teo Fabi's car. He was up in third place, but suddenly he pulled off. Marco Greco pulls off. It's got to be the heat.
Oh, the heat just tearing everything up. You know, as we said earlier, about 3/4 of the way through this race, you just watch it. But not only the cars, the tires, the brakes, the drivers are going to be tired too.
All right, the situation now is Al Unser Jr. with those stops has picked up the lead of the race, but remember, he's out of the sequence. His pit stop has been at an entirely different interval owing to his problems in the early part of the race. Let's go to Gary Gerould.
Well, Gilles de Ferran, we know the engine finally gave out, but everybody's talking about this oppressive heat. How tough was it for you today?
Physically it was very tough, you know, but I'm well prepared. And, you know, I was ready to go the distance and give Michael a run for his money, you know. And it was just a shame what happened. The Pennzoil car was running great, and the team did a good job on the pit stops, you know. It's just a shame.
Thank you so much. Grab that cold towel and get cool.
Thank you.
Paul?
So watching Al Unser Jr. stopped 26 laps ago, so should be due anytime now.
Remember last year how Al led a triumphant Penske 1-2-3 finish here at this track, and how that typified the entire season. Penske utterly dominant. And this year, how rarely we've seen them in the lead. Al won one race, that was Long Beach. Emerson won one race, but they have struggled. Of course, they didn't get in the race at Indianapolis. I don't think it's that they've had such a bad season. Do you, Bobby? It's that the rest of the competition has caught up.
Absolutely, Sam. The Lola cars made a big gain this year. The Renard cars made a gain from what they had last year. Penske's cars just didn't make a gain this year. Another thing that's kind of nice about little Al is he's running out in clean air by himself. Gilles de Ferran, for the guys who were watching earlier on the television, he was running behind somebody. The car ahead puts out a lot of heat through the exhaust, heats the car up behind a whole bunch. Sometimes this has to do on a hot day like this with breaking the engine more often.
For people who care about... I'm sorry, Paul.
Bobby, you got an insight at Penske Racing. What's going on back there at Poole, England, where, by the way, they do watch these shows? Can you let any secrets out? Do you think they're building a new car right now?
Well, I guess I could tell you a little bit. They are building a new car. I don't think it'd take a brainstorm to figure out he would be building a new car, but it's being done now in a hurry because they know that they've got a problem with this year's car, and they know they have to have a better car, more adjustable car, something they can work with a whole lot better. For example, when they had problems at Indianapolis, not just have to live with the problem, but be able to change it till they get the car right again.
Well, Emerson Fittipaldi's car is being pushed out of the pit area. Let's go to Gary Gerould.
They suspect it may have been a valve spring problem. No confirmation on that. And another disappointing Sunday afternoon for a former champion. He's had it tough, as you've mentioned. This has been a particularly tough year. His 25th in motor racing for Emerson Fittipaldi.
So Al Unser Jr. out of sequence in the stops, continues his lead. Adrian Fernandez driving for Rick Gallis with a nice run. Started 11th, now sits in 5th place, but very much in attack position. Remember that Al Unser Jr. is 7 seconds ahead of Michael Andretti, and then Michael kind of sits alone on the course. But after that, Paul Tracy, Villeneuve, Fernandez, Herta, Gugelmin, well, they're all tight in the lineup.